Sometimes a soul is born into the world not to be famous, not to build empires, but to radiate love, pure, bright, and undimmed. In 1971, in a small town in northern Italy called Castello, a couple named Ruggiero and Maria Teresa Badano finally received the child they had prayed for. For over 11 years, they had begged God for the gift of a child. It was a quiet cross they bore, month after month, year after year, waiting, hoping, believing. And then came Chiara. From the moment she entered their lives, something about her was different. She was cheerful, curious, gentle, and always smiling. Her parents nicknamed her Luce, the Italian word for light. It wasn't just a cute name, it was prophetic. Even as a toddler, Chiara was sensitive to others. She'd notice when someone was upset, share her toys freely, and speak to her parents about Jesus in the most natural way, like she already knew him personally. Her mother would later say, she had something special from the very beginning, not just for us, but for others. They had no idea just how true that would become. Chiara grew up in a simple home. Her father worked as a truck driver, and her mother stayed at home. They weren't wealthy, but they were rich in faith. Every day started and ended with prayer. The rosary wasn't just a tradition, it was the rhythm of their life. From a young age, Chiara showed a remarkable awareness of God's presence. At age 4, she once told her mother, "You know, Mom, I don't think Jesus wants me to marry. I think he wants me just for himself." Maria Teresa was stunned. What 4-year-old says something like that? But for Chiara, holiness wasn't abstract. It was tangible. It was in the little things, doing chores without being asked, comforting sad classmates, giving up her snack to someone in need. By the time she was 9, Chiara asked to join the Focolare Movement, a Catholic community focused on unity, gospel living, and joy. She took its motto seriously. Jesus in the midst, meaning Jesus should be present in every relationship, every act of love. And so Chiara lived it. Quietly, joyfully, consistently. She didn't stand out because she preached loudly. She stood out because she loved deeply. As she grew into her teen years, Chiara blossomed. She was beautiful, tall, athletic, with striking eyes and a peaceful glow. But she wasn't vain. She didn't wear flashy clothes or chase attention. She loved music, tennis, hiking, swimming, and dancing. She had friends, went to school, joked around. She was normal. But within that normal teenage life burned a fierce and quiet faith. When classmates gossiped or excluded someone, Chiara refused to join in. When a friend struggled, Chiara would stop everything to help. When people mocked her for being too holy, she smiled and moved on, without bitterness. One teacher later said, "She was the kind of girl who made you want to be better, without saying a word." And like any teen, she had dreams. Chiara wanted to become a flight attendant, to see the world and bring kindness wherever she went. She had plans, hopes, and a radiant future. But God had another plan, one that would take all her dreams and turn them into something eternal. It was a warm summer day in 1988. Chiara was just 17 years old, laughing with her friends on the tennis court. The air was full of life, and so was she. Running, swinging, playing like always. And then, pain. A sharp, stabbing ache in her shoulder stopped her mid-swing. She brushed it off at first, thinking maybe she pulled a muscle. But as the days passed, the pain didn't fade. It grew. Her right shoulder began to ache constantly. She had trouble moving it. Even simple things became difficult. Her parents took her to the doctor. They ran tests, scans, biopsies. Then came the diagnosis no one saw coming. Osteogenic sarcoma, bone cancer, aggressive, dangerous, life-altering. She was only 17. When the doctors told Chiara about the cancer, her face fell silent. But then, after a few seconds, she looked up and said words that stunned even the nurse standing nearby. "If Jesus wants it, so do I." There was no panic, no rage, no why me. From the very beginning, Chiara accepted her suffering with peace, not because she was numb, but because she trusted God completely. As treatments began, chemotherapy, injections, surgery, the pain became unbearable. Her hair began to fall out. Her body weakened. She could no longer walk. And yet she never once complained. In fact, during one hospital stay, she asked her mother, "Mom, don't wake me up to take the pain medication. It will pass." Jesus took much more. She offered everything to her pain, her struggles, her fears, as a gift to God. When others pitied her, she smiled and said, "I have nothing left, but I still have my heart, and with that I can love." As Chiara's illness progressed, her hospital room became something remarkable. People entered with heavy hearts and left with peace. Nurses would cry quietly in the hallway, not out of sorrow, but from the presence they felt inside. Doctors, often hardened by years of loss, found themselves changed by her witness. Chiara welcomed every visitor with joy. She never focused on herself. She listened. She joked. She shared stories. She prayed. And she prepared for heaven, not with fear, not with fear, but with anticipation. She chose her own outfit for her funeral, a white dress like a bride. She gave instructions: no crying, no black clothing, no sadness. She wanted it to be a celebration because she was going to meet the one she loved most. In her final months, her phrase became, "I'm not asking Jesus to come and take me to heaven. I don't want to give him the impression I don't want to suffer anymore." That's the kind of faith Chiara had. Not easy, not shallow, but deep and radiant. And it lit up every dark corner around her. As the cancer continued to spread through Chiara's body, it eventually paralyzed her. She could no longer walk. Her bones became so fragile that even moving in bed caused intense pain. And yet she never complained. Her mother, Maria Teresa, later recalled, "She didn't ask for explanations. She didn't look for miracles. She just offered everything and stayed smiling." In her final weeks, Chiara asked her parents to help her get ready, not just physically, but spiritually. She had very specific requests. She picked out the songs she wanted played at her funeral. She chose a white dress saying, "This is my wedding dress because I'm going to meet Jesus." She wrote letters to friends, to her parents, and to the Focolare community, encouraging them to stay close to God. When her father entered the room one evening and quietly said, "The time is near," Chiara didn't flinch. She simply whispered, "Be happy, because I am." On October 7, 1990, Chiara Luce Badano took her final breath. She was only 18. In those last moments, she looked at her mother and said, "Goodbye, Mama. Be happy. I'm with Jesus now." She died peacefully with a smile on her face. The news of her passing spread quickly, not just through her town, but across Italy and the Focolare community around the world. And despite her request for no sadness, her funeral drew hundreds and later thousands of people. And it wasn't tears they brought. It was joy, awe, reverence. Her body was dressed in the white outfit she had chosen. Her casket was surrounded by flowers and light. And the priest who celebrated the Mass said, "In all my years of ministry, I've never seen faith so pure, not even in the elderly, not even in religious, but in an 18-year-old girl." Chiara's story did not end in that hospital bed. In fact, that's when it truly began. People who had known her started sharing stories. One classmate who had left the church returned to confession after attending Chiara's funeral. A nurse who was not religious began praying again because of her time with Chiara. Her letters, notes, and journal entries began circulating among Catholic youth groups. And something extraordinary started happening. Thousands of young people across Europe began writing to the Vatican, asking that Chiara be considered for sainthood. They didn't just admire her, they wanted to follow her. In 1999, just 9 years after her death, the Vatican officially opened her cause. She was declared a servant of God. In 2008, she was declared venerable. And in 2010, after a miracle was officially recognized through her intercession, she was beatified by Pope Benedict XVI. Her beatification took place in the Italian town of Domus Mariae, and over 20,000 people came. Young people, families, priests, nuns, skeptics, believers. All there because of a girl who never wanted fame. She just wanted to love Jesus with all her heart. For someone to be beatified in the Catholic Church, the Vatican requires one verified miracle through their intercession, a sign that the person is with God and capable of praying for us on earth. In Chiara's case, that miracle involved a young Italian boy in Turin. He had been suffering from meningitis and was in critical condition. Doctors said there was nothing more they could do. The infection had caused severe brain damage and paralysis. The family, devastated, turned to prayer. A family friend, familiar with Chiara's story, encouraged them to pray through her intercession. They began praying earnestly, asking blessed Chiara Luce to intercede. And then, the boy began to recover. Not slowly but rapidly. His brain function returned. He began to move. His scans baffled the doctors. He made a full recovery with no medical explanation. The Vatican sent doctors, theologians, and investigators. After months of review, they determined it was a genuine miracle with no natural cause and attributed it to Chiara's intercession. That miracle was officially approved in 2009, and the following year, Chiara was declared blessed. Chiara's beatification in 2010 wasn't just a ceremony. It was a moment that touched an entire generation. Over 20,000 people packed into the Marian shrine at Domus Mariae in Rome to witness it. But even more watched online from Brazil, Nigeria, the Philippines, the United States. Teenagers were tweeting about her. Youth groups were holding all-night vigils. Catholic blogs and forums lit up with her story.
Why?
Because Chiara wasn't distant. She wasn't centuries old. She wasn't unreachable. She wore sneakers and jeans. She had doubts and dreams. She lived in the same modern world and showed it was still possible to be holy. Young people, especially girls, began taking her as their spiritual role model. Letters flooded the Focolare Center, saying things like, "I felt like she was talking directly to me. I didn't believe God loved me until I read about her. She made me want to be better, not out of fear, but love." Her parents, still alive and deeply humble, began speaking at events, but they never tried to make their daughter into a celebrity. They simply said, "She lived the gospel seriously and she loved Jesus deeply." As the years passed, Chiara's influence only grew stronger. She's now a patron for youth movements in Europe and Latin America, retreats for teens dealing with illness or depression, conferences on holiness in everyday life, Catholic schools teaching sainthood through modern witnesses. In some places, young people even celebrate Chiara Luce Day, not with parties, but with acts of kindness, service to the poor, and Eucharistic adoration. One priest in France said, "We don't need to invent role models. God already gives them to us. Chiara is one of the brightest." In Nigeria, girls from poor villages walk miles to watch videos about her life. In Argentina, college students built a youth center and named it Luce in her honor. In the U.S., parishes host Eucharistic nights called Luce Nights, where teens pray, adore, and learn how to follow Christ, like Chiara did. She's become a global torch, and she didn't do it through social media, fame, or influence. She did it through suffering transformed into love. In a world that often avoids pain at all costs, Chiara's story offers a completely different path. She didn't glamorize suffering. She never acted like it was easy, but she embraced it as something meaningful, something she could give to Jesus. There's a scene her mother recalled that continues to move hearts. Chiara was lying in her hospital bed, barely able to move. Her bones were fragile and her body was racked with pain. Her mother asked if she needed anything, maybe more pain medicine or to be turned for comfort. Chiara simply smiled and said, "No, thank you. I'm okay. Jesus is with me on the cross. That's enough." She didn't see suffering as punishment. She saw it as a way to be close to Christ, to unite her pain with his. That's a lesson so many modern hearts need to hear. Chiara never gave in to self-pity or despair. She believed her suffering had value, not just in a spiritual sense, but in a transformative one. Her motto during her final months became, "I have nothing left, but I still have my heart, and with that I can love." That's the gospel lived in its purest form. Chiara's faith didn't come from nowhere. It was nurtured day by day in the love and witness of her parents. Ruggiero and Maria Teresa Badano were not rich, famous, or powerful. They were ordinary Catholics who prayed together, sacrificed quietly, and trusted God deeply. For over a decade, they waited for a child, and when Chiara came, they never tried to control her. They guided her, gently, faithfully. They didn't shelter her from the world, but they also didn't let the world define her. They taught her to value silence, humility, and compassion, things often missing in the lives of modern families. When she was diagnosed with cancer, they were devastated, but they never told her to fight for her life at all costs. Instead, they walked with her, letting her lead with courage, offering their presence with peace. Her mother later said, "We never asked why us. We only asked how can we be faithful in this." That attitude shaped Chiara's soul. And today, countless parents around the world look to the Badanos as a model, not of perfection, but of parenting that creates saints. Since her beatification, Chiara Luce Badano has become one of the most beloved modern figures in the church, especially for the youth. But her message isn't just for teenagers, it's for everyone, for the lonely. Her life says, "You are not forgotten. God sees you. God wants you." For the sick, her story whispers, "Your suffering is not wasted. It can be a gift." For the doubting, she gently reminds, holiness is not about being perfect. It's about being faithful. And for families, for communities, for the church as a whole, Chiara is a sign that God still raises saints today. Ordinary homes, ordinary parishes, ordinary lives. She didn't write books. She didn't go viral. She didn't become a nun. She became a saint by loving in silence, by suffering with grace, and by choosing heaven one small moment at a time. The church sees in Chiara a message for our age, a call to remember that sanctity is not about being distant from the world, but about bringing light into it. Chiara Luce Badano is currently recognized by the church as blessed, the final step before full canonization as a saint. Her cause continues to move forward with great love and support from the faithful around the world. But for her to be officially declared a saint, the church requires one more verified miracle through her intercession. And the stories are pouring in. Testimonies have come from mothers praying for their children's healing, youth in despair who found peace after learning about her, priests asking for her guidance in their ministries, cancer patients who consider her their heavenly sister. The Vatican's Congregation for the Causes of Saints continues to collect documentation. Her postulators, those promoting her canonization, are working with bishops, medical experts, and theologians to verify claims and evidence. It may take years or it may happen soon, but those who knew Chiara and those who have come to love her are certain of one thing. She is already a saint in heaven. The church is just catching up. Chiara Luce Badano left no buildings, no books, no foundations in her name. She left behind hearts changed by love. In schools, her story is told to show that holiness is not outdated. In hospitals, her image rests beside beds, inspiring patients to suffer with hope. In churches, her prayer cards sit beside candles lit by trembling hands. In youth groups, she is held up as a mirror of modern sainthood, joyful, simple, and courageous. Her witness teaches us that suffering can be redemptive, that God calls even the young to be saints. That joy is not the absence of pain, it's the presence of God. And above all, she reminds the church of something we can't afford to forget. Holiness is possible, right now, even here. If you've made it to the end of this video, let your heart rest on this truth. Chiara Badano didn't wait to be holy. She didn't wait to be older. She didn't wait until life made sense. She simply said yes, over and over, to Jesus. And her light still shines. In a world obsessed with status, she chose humility. In a culture running from pain, she chose the cross. In a generation that questions everything, she trusted entirely. And because of that, she changed the world. If her story moved you, share it. If you're suffering, ask her to walk with you. If you're young and searching, know that Chiara was once just like you. And she found her way, not by following the crowd, but by following Christ. Blessed Chiara Luce Badano, pray for us.